Hello, my name is Edward Black. This is my persuasive speech. This is my audience.
Sorry.
Hello, how many of you grew up in a small town with a dozen or more family-owned stores? Did any of your parents drive 20 minutes or more to buy groceries at Walmart or Kroger when your town had a small family-owned grocery store less than 5 minutes away? That's how it was for me when I was a kid. But it wasn't just for groceries. Anytime I needed new shoes or my mom needed her car fixed, we would drive to the nearest city instead of going to the local shoe store or car mechanic. Growing up in a small town, many of my friends from school had parents who owned and ran these small businesses my parents were neglecting by doing business with the big-name corporate retail chains in other towns. Today I'm going to be discussing the problems associated with not supporting local business and the causes to these problems. And I'm also going to highlight a few solutions to prevent the disappearance of local business. To understand how to prevent the disappearance of local business, I must first explain the problems associated with not shopping local. When we neglect to support local business, there are economic and social impacts to our communities. Compared to chain stores, locally owned businesses recycle large shares of their revenue back into the local economy, enriching the whole community. According to the statistics from the U.S. Small Business Administration and published by Grasshopper.com, a virtual PBX service, there are more than 23 million small businesses in the U.S. These small businesses donate 250% more than larger businesses to nonprofit organizations and to community causes. According to the Civic Economic Study done by Grand Rapids, Michigan, if you spend $100 at a local business, $68 stays in your local economy compared to $43 when you spend the same amount at a large business. Locally owned businesses create more jobs locally, and in some sectors, provide better wages and benefits than the chains do. According to the statistics from the U.S. Small Business Administration, small businesses have created over 8 million jobs since 1990. According to the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, studies have shown that locally owned businesses employ more people per unit of sale and retain more employees during economic downturns, while big box retailers decrease the number of retail jobs in a region. Another positive is that locally owned businesses have proven to rarely move, and because they're not inclined to move to other countries to get higher rates of return from their business. Locally owned businesses build strong communities by sustaining vibrant town centers, linking neighbors in a web of economic and social relationships, and contribute to local causes. According to Richard Moe, president of the National Historic Preservation Trust, when people go on vacation, they generally seek out destinations that offer them the sense of being someplace and not just any place. These communities that can preserve their one-of-a-kind business and distinctive character tend to have an economic advantage. According to an article called The Benefits of Locally Owned Businesses by bealocalist.org, part of what makes any community great is how well it preserves its unique culture, foods, ecology, architecture, history, music, and art. Locally owned businesses celebrate these features, while non-locals steamroll them with retail monocultures. Outsider-owned firms take what they can from local horizon extends even beyond their grandchildren who have vested interests in growing these assets. And it's the local firms who are most inclined to serve local tastes with specific microbrews and clothing lines. Austin's Small Business Network employs the slogan "Keep Austin Weird" because it's the weirdness that attracts tourists and engages locals in their culture and draws talented newcomers and keeps young people hanging around. Entrepreneurship fuels America's economic innovation and prosperity and serves a key means for families to move out of low-wage jobs and into middle class. Chris Gibbons, the founder of Economic Gardening Movement, has been advocating that local businesses focusing on innovation is one of the most dynamic catalysts for local prosperity. An article by Jason Nizar, published by Forbes magazine, supports these claims, stating that approximately 543,000 new businesses get started each month, and that 70% of new businesses survive at least 2 years, and 50% of them survive at least 5 years. And according to K.J. Henderson's article published by Tron.com, small business owners with less than 1 year experience in running an organization earn an annual salary ranging from $34,000 to $75,000 a year. Those with more than 10 years experience, on the other hand, earn up to over $100,000 per year. These are just a few of the positive impacts associated with shopping local, the reasons or causes for why people choose to shop at big corporation chains. Some of the causes that lead to less support for local business include political appeal and free market economics. Local politicians can be easily swayed by the promise of job creation. They get overhyped by big corporation chains coming into their communities. The tax revenues generated by big corporations is another enticing reason why local politicians often choose to support these chains moving into their local communities. States oftentimes also offer tax breaks worth millions of dollars to lure out-of-state corporations to move into your state. But one of the biggest misconceptions that consumers have is that prices are often too high at small businesses. Sometimes people are just unaware of their options, as big corporate retail stores have advertising power to cloud consumers' options. And another reason is that sometimes people don't trust small businesses because they feel that the small mom and pop shops are only looking out for themselves and don't really take the consumers into consideration. These are just a few of the reasons or causes that lead people away from supporting local business, but now I'm going to explain what you can do to prevent the disappearance of local business. A few solutions to the problem include advocacy and personal responsibility. You can become an advocate for local business in your community. First, you must educate yourself more on the issue, which there are many great websites that can help explain more of the importance of shopping local. But one thing that you can make a huge difference right now is by networking. You can take a stance and you can talk to your friends and your family about the issue. This can, it seems pretty simple, but it can dramatically help advocate the importance of shopping local. Lastly, when advocating these issues, you want to try to inspire and engage others to participate in supporting these local businesses. Another thing is you have to take personal responsibility and shop local. The biggest thing you can do to prevent local businesses from disappearing is by having a willingness to change your own behavior. You also have to take an initiative to shop local. You can start out by taking little steps at a time, by setting a standard or guideline for yourself. What I personally would suggest is making small commitments, like deciding to buy all your coffee beans at a local coffee shop instead of buying them at Walmart or Kroger. Another example you could do is instead of going to Walmart to get your oil changed, you could go to a local car mechanic. And usually it's about the same price. Once you come up with a rough idea of what you want to do, you have to stay dedicated and follow through with your plans. So, in conclusion, I've discussed some of the positive impacts that local businesses have on communities and why losing these businesses would have a negative consequence. I've also discussed some of the causes or reasons why people consciously and subconsciously choose to shop at large retail chain stores. And I've also addressed a few ways that you can make a difference. So tonight, I urge everyone in the audience to consciously plan to encourage the values you want reflected in your community. Take a moment every time you spend $1 and consider the real value you're receiving, especially when you decide to shop at a large corporation. Thank you for actively listening to me tonight, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. This is my audience. James just left.